All right, today we're going to do something really cool. We're going to crack the code of life itself. Yeah, seriously. We're diving back into the foundational experiments that first taught us how traits get passed down from one generation to the next. Let's break down the big two, monohybrid versus dihybrid crosses.
I mean, it's a question we've all asked, right? Why do you have your mother's eyes or your father's height? Well, it's not magic, it's genetics. And the story of how we first started to figure this all out is honestly a fascinating one.
So our journey kicks off way back in the 19th century with Gregor Mendel. He was a monk who, just by working meticulously with his garden peas, basically laid the entire groundwork for modern genetics. He didn't have any fancy DNA sequencers, just a ton of patience, a keen eye for detail, and a whole lot of pea plants. So where did Mendel even begin? Well, he started with the simplest question he could think of. What happens if you track just one single characteristic at a time? This was the beginning of him cracking that first, crucial code of heredity. And this is what we call a monohybrid cross. The key word here is mono, which, means one. We're literally isolating and following the inheritance of a single trait, like plant height. And for Mendel's peas, this came in two very distinct flavors, tall or dwarf.
So here's the play-by-play. First, Mendel took a purebred tall plant, we'll say its genes are big T, and crossed it with a purebred dwarf plant, little t. The first batch of offspring, the F1 generation, were all tall. Every single one. It was like the dwarf trait had just vanished into thin air. But then, and this is the genius part, he let that generation self-pollinate. And in that second generation, the F2s, something absolutely incredible happened. The dwarf trait popped right back up, and it wasn't random at all. It followed this super specific pattern. For every one dwarf plant, there were 3 tall ones, a perfect 3-to-1 ratio. This consistent ratio was the big aha moment. It proved that traits didn't just blend together like paint. The dwarf trait wasn't gone. It was just hidden, or what we now call recessive, because it was being masked by the dominant tall trait. This simple little ratio led Mendel to his first huge principle, the law of segregation. It basically means that for any trait, an organism has 2 units of inheritance, what we now call genes, and gets 1 from each parent. When that organism reproduces, those 2 units separate, so its offspring only gets 1. I mean, this was absolutely revolutionary. Okay, so tracking one trait revealed a fundamental law of nature. Pretty cool, right? But what happens when you track 2 traits at the same time? Does having one trait, like being tall, have any influence on inheriting another trait, like, say, seed color? And this brings us to the dihybrid cross. Di, of course, means 2. So here, Mendel wasn't just looking at height anymore. He was tracking 2 totally different things at once. For example, a pea's shape, was it round or wrinkled, and its color, was it yellow or green? So he started by crossing a plant that was purebred for both of the dominant traits, so round and yellow seeds, with one that was purebred for both recessive traits, wrinkled and green. And just like before, that first generation of offspring all showed the dominant traits. They were all round and yellow. But the real magic, once again, happened in that F2 generation. When those F1 plants were left to self-pollinate, the result was this beautiful but much more complex pattern, 9-3 to 3-1. So, what on earth do these numbers actually mean?
Let's break it down. Out of every 16 potential combinations, you'd get 9 that were round and yellow, both dominant traits showing. You'd get 3 that were round and green, and another 3 that were wrinkled and yellow. Now, these are brand new combinations that didn't even exist in the original parent generation. And finally, you get just 1 that's wrinkled and green, showing both recessive traits.
This elegant 9-3-3-1 ratio proved something truly profound. It showed that the gene for seed shape was inherited completely independently of the gene for seed color. They didn't travel as a package deal. This became Mendel's second great law, the law of independent assortment. All right, quick quiz time to see if you're with me. In that first monohybrid cross, were the F1 offspring A, all tall, B, all dwarf, or C, a mix of both? The answer is A. They were all tall because the tall trait is dominant. Okay, next one. What's that classic ratio from the dihybrid cross? Is it A, 9-3 to 3-1, B, 3-1, or C, 1-2-1? Yep, you got it. It's A, that famous 9-3 to 3-1. That pattern is the absolute signature of 2 genes doing their own thing. Okay, now that we've looked at both crosses, let's put them head to head. This is where the differences really snap into focus and it all starts to click.
So on one side, you've got the Monohybrid Cross, our simple one-gene case study. And on the other, you've got the Dihybrid Cross, which really levels up the complexity by looking at two genes at the same time.
This table lays it out perfectly. A monohybrid cross studies one trait, a dihybrid studies two. This difference leads directly to those signature F2 ratios we saw, a simple 3:1 for the monohybrid and the more complex 9:3 to 3:1 for the dihybrid. Each cross really has its own distinct purpose. One helps us understand a single gene, the other helps us understand how two genes interact, or don't. So look, these were simple experiments with pea plants from over 150 years ago. Why do we still care? Why is this the first thing every biology student on the planet learns? It's because literally everything we know about modern genetics is built on this foundation. These simple crosses are the key to understanding more complex stuff, like traits that are controlled by tons of genes. They're the starting point for studying genes that don't follow the rules. And most importantly, they give us the fundamental tools to track and understand human genetic disorders.
And that leaves us with one final provocative thought. Mendel's work gave us these beautiful, predictable rules, but what happens when genes decide not to play by those rules? What if they're physically linked on the same chromosome and tend to travel together? Well, that's a story for another time, and that's where genetics gets even more interesting.
Subscribe and join our community of science lovers.